Welcome to Bite Size Rando. My name is DDR Kirby. Today we're going to be talking about how to deal with the big chest in Swamp Palace. Now, the big key in Swamp Palace can be in any item location in Swamp Palace except for the very first chest. It can even be inside the big chest itself, so that means it locks itself. It can also be on the boss of the dungeon, Argus, in which case if you want whatever is in the big chest, you're going to have to, after beating Argus, you're going to have to go and walk back into the dungeon and get to the big chest and go through the dungeon a second time in order to get whatever's in this chest. There's kind of no way around that. But a more interesting situation is if you go past the big chest into the back part of the dungeon and you find the big key in, for example, one of these two chests here, in this room where you are generally going to do the diver down glitch. Or you could go maybe even further and find the big chest, the big key in this waterfall room over here. Now, if you have not done the two checks on left side swamp yet, you might be intending to save that for a potential second go around of the dungeon. And in that case, if you find your big key here, you should just go along and proceed on to Argus, and then that way, in your second pass of the dungeon, you can go and get the get whatever's in the big chest before you go ahead and do your left side swamp checks. But if you've already done left side swamp in your first pass of the dungeon before going to the back, then all you're really concerned about with possible backtracking is the big chest. So the question becomes, from here, is it going to be faster to backtrack from this room back to the big chest and then come back here after doing that and then go to Argus? Or is it going to be faster to first go ahead to Argus and then come back in specifically for the big chest? Okay, so that's what we're going to try to answer today. So let's go ahead and look at those timing comparisons. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at how long it takes to get from the entrance of the dungeon to the big chest. So this is going to be, you've just beaten Argus and you want to go back in for the big chest in a second go around. Right, so on the left here, we're going to have, we're not going to have the boots, and on the right, we are going to have the boots. I am speeding up these videos a little bit so that we can get through them faster. And for these videos, I am going to be using the Specky clip. So you lay the bomb here and clip this rail. I should note that if you're also planning on doing left side swamp, you'll of course probably want to grab the key in this hallway, which you should normally skip the first time through the dungeon. But you'll see that after getting the big chest and mirroring out back to the front of the dungeon, with the boots, this takes about a little bit less than 42 seconds, and without the boots, it takes in 46.6 seconds. Now, if we get all the way to this waterfall chest and we get the big key here, let's figure out how much time it costs to backtrack back to the big chest and then back again. So I have 4 videos here. These left 2 are going to show what happens if you just get to this chest and then go straight ahead and proceed to Argus. This is just so we can have an exact timing difference for exactly how long it costs you to backtrack. And these top 2 videos, we're not going to have boots, and the bottom 2 videos we're going to have boots. So it's essentially looking at the difference between these 2 videos and the difference between these 2 videos. Okay? We're going to backtrack, and it's going to take a while. Of course, this is going back through quite a few rooms, so there's quite a number of room transitions. It is going to be a little bit faster, of course, with the boots. So finally made it to the big chest, and now we're going to go all the way back. And for this room, we're going to have to do a diver down glitch again. And you'll see that I'm using the bombs this time. You can also use Samaria. There's actually a few different bomb setups. You'll see that I'm actually laying the bomb on the right side here instead of doing the splash setup diver down. And that's because laying the bomb on the right is actually better here. It's more optimal because it pushes you to the left, which is closer to the door, because you don't need to open these chests because you've already opened them the first time. So just a minor optimization there. But you'll see that with the boots, this takes 57 seconds, and without boots, or 57 minus 4 seconds. So with the boots, this will take about 53 seconds for the backtrack, and without the boots, it'll take maybe a minute and 1 or 2 seconds, just over a minute. So these 2 times are definitely longer than it would take to just beat Argus and then go get the big chest in the second go around. So in conclusion, if you find the big key here, always go forward to Argus, and if you want whatever's in the big chest, just get it by going back into the dungeon. Okay, so now we're going to look at the same thing, but for these 2 diver down chests. So on the left side, we're going to look at just how much time it takes to just go through to the door for this room normally, which is going to be 3.5 seconds. And on the right side, we're going to look at how long it takes to backtrack to the big chest and then come back to this door. Now on the top, we're not going to have boots, and on the bottom, we are going to have the boots. But you'll notice this time that something weird happens with these stairs, and this didn't happen in the other clip, but this happens if you immediately backtrack from this room, and that is when you try to go up these stairs without the boots, or if you try to go up these stairs normally, the stairs will actually suck you back in, even if you don't press anything, or despite you pressing anything actually. And you'll have to go up the stairs a second time in order to proceed. And this is a weird glitch that happens in the Japanese 1.0 version of the game, which is the one that Randomizer is based off of. You can avoid it using the boots if you line up with either this top railing or with the bottom wall, kind of as if you're setting up a key dash into the stairs. That will give you a good pixel alignment, a good coordinate, so that when you come up here, you'll need to tap or press left, and then you can exit the stairs cleanly without getting sucked in. Don't ask me why that happens. It's kind of some weird stuff with how the game is programmed or something like that. I don't exactly understand, but I don't know of a way to avoid this glitch if you don't have the boots. So that is going to cost you extra time if you backtrack without the boots. So it's going to take a lot longer. Of course, with the boots, we don't have that problem, so we're going to be able to get back here quite a bit faster. And it looks like here are the time differences. So again, I'm using the bomb diver down on the right side. So here are the time differences. So without the boots, it's going to be about 46 seconds flat. And with the boots, it looks like it's going to be 36 seconds flat. So it's about a 10 seconds difference with boots, actually. So we have 46 seconds here and 36 seconds here. Now, if we go back and compare those numbers to what we had for getting the big chest from the entrance, you'll see that backtracking actually works out faster. So you'll see that we have 36 seconds compared to 41.8 here, and then we have 46 seconds compared to 46.6 seconds. Of course, this is assuming that you execute, like a nice, pretty good diver down and all of that, but it looks like backtracking is going to be faster from the diver down chests in both cases, whether you have the boots or not. But it's actually slightly more complicated, because remember, for these timings, these two timings here, we included the time it takes after getting the big chest item to mirror out of the dungeon and then walk out to this screen. And that actually does take a few seconds. And if you instead are planning on saving and quitting directly from Swamp Palace, then you don't have to mirror from there, right? You can just save and quit. So if you're planning on doing save and quit, then for example, if you don't have the boots, we can already save and quit right here. And that's going to be around maybe like 42 seconds-ish. And that is actually going to be faster than the backtracking route of 46 seconds. So if you're planning on just doing a save and quit, then it's actually going to be better to not backtrack. It's going to be better to just go to Argus first and then get the big chest on the second go around. Now with the boots, we can look at that timing as well, and you'll see that getting the big chest still will take you you'll only be able to save and quit around the 37-second mark. So in this case, backtracking is still going to be faster. Unfortunately, things actually get a lot more complicated than this because of the existence of the map and the compass. So if you open these two chests and you already have both the map and the compass, and you find the big key in one of these two chests, then you can use all the timing data that I just talked about before to decide whether it's faster to go back now or to go forward later, or to go forward now, and then that is all fine. But if you still have the map outstanding or the compass outstanding, or maybe both, then map or compass could be in this big chest here. And in that case, it might be worth going forward first so that we can potentially skip the big chest altogether because we know that it have the map or the compass. And of course, it gets more complicated because it also depends on whether Argus has a crystal or a pendant and whether you care about obtaining that dungeon prize. Now, at this point, after opening these two chests, we have 3 checks left in the dungeon, right? We have the big chest, of course, we have this waterfall check here, and then we have Argus. And out of these three, Argus is actually going to be the slowest check. I don't have exact timings because it really depends on your equipment loadout, but from opening this waterfall chest to defeating Argus, it will take maybe around at least 50 seconds, maybe closer to a minute, and of course it really depends on whether you have Tempered Sword, whether you have the boots even, or whether you're stuck on like Fighter Sword, and how well your fight with Argus goes. But it is definitely going to be the slowest of the checks, even if you include backtracking to the big chest. So what that means is, if you do not care whatsoever about the prize that's on Argus, so let's say it's a pendant, a dungeon, it's like a red pendant, and you already checked the pedestal and it's nothing, then I would recommend basically always backtracking here, because you want to check the big chest first in hopes of being able to skip Argus, and you want to do Argus last because if you find your items here and then you know that Argus has the map or compass, then you're done here and then you get to skip the slowest check in the dungeon, which is going to be Argus right now, okay? Now, if you don't want to leave Argus behind, either because it's Argus has a crystal, or maybe has green pendant, or maybe you're not comfortable with the idea of leaving behind a pendant for a pedestal check, then after opening these two chests, if you still have either the map or the compass or both outstanding, I would actually recommend always going forward and going ahead and doing the waterfall chests and then proceeding to Argus from there first, and then going back into the dungeon if you still need a big chest. And if you think about why that is, it's because you know you want to kill Argus for sure, and you might be able to skip the big chest if you do it last, and so it's going to be to your advantage to go forward and check the two chests here. Remember, there's two chests. There's two checks here. There's this chest and then Argus. So check those two chests, and then once you come out of the dungeon, if you need to, then you can go back for the big chests. And we already said from our earlier timings that that only really costs you, at most a few seconds over doing the backtrack, right? So it's not really that much of a time loss, but it is going to be a big time gain if you just get to leave because you know that the big chest has a map or a compass, okay? Okay, I know that was a lot to take in, so let's do a quick review. If you find the big key in this chest, then 100% always go to Argus. If you have to go back in for the big chest, so be it, but you always go to Argus after opening this chest. The real question is what happens if you find the big key in one of these two chests. If you find the big key in one of these two chests, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do I have map or compass still outstanding? If you have not found the map, or you've not found the compass, or you haven't found either of them, then it depends on whether you want the dungeon prize from Argus or not. If you want the dungeon prize from Argus, for example, it's a crystal dungeon, then always go to Argus first. That way you have a chance of being able to skip the big chest entirely because it might be a map or a compass. If you don't care about the Argus prize whatsoever because you know it's like a pendant that doesn't lead to anything, then in that case, always backtrack first and check the big chest first, no matter what. That is because that gives you a chance at being able to skip Argus, because Argus, you'll know that Argus has a map or a compass, and that is going to be the slowest check. Now, if you already have both the map and the compass, and you find the big key here, I know it's a lot of ifs, but if you already have both the map and the compass, then it's going to depend on first whether you have the boots. If you have the boots, then always backtrack first. So always do this dash and then go to big chest and then come back here. If you don't have the boots, then it's going to depend on what you're planning on doing after Swamp Palace. If you're planning on mirroring after Swamp Palace, then you actually want to backtrack as well, even though you're going to have to go through the weird double stairs. But if you're planning on saving and quitting after Swamp Palace, then you actually want to go forward and then come back in for the big chest, and then once you open the big chest, you're going to save and quit. Okay? So I know that was a lot to remember, but hopefully at least you can keep the more common scenarios in your head and reference this video when you need to if you forget the other ones. Of course, another way of handling all this is to always skip left side swamp the first time through Swamp Palace, and then after opening these 2 chests, even if you find the big key, just always go through, and then plan on handling left side swamp along with the big chest on a second pass of the dungeon if it still makes sense. But of course, there's different ways of making the decision on left side swamp and all of that based on your personal preference as well as your current seed, so I'm not going to tell you what to do there. But that is an option. So hopefully this all helps. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.